Hello, this is Dread from Epic Builds. In today's video topic, we have a spicy one. This is going to be going over my planned league starter for patch 3.16 Scourge League. Before we get into the video, I will preface this heavily, as this is before the gem info, and all we have to go off for Poisonous Concoction is this clip from Ziggy D.
Hot info from abusing my privileged connections on the level 20 stats for Poisonous Concoction. 622 added chaos damage to 933 top end. And the amount from the extra life flask damage is 9% of the flask's recovery amount. 9%.
So this is based on heavy speculation, but with very conservative estimates. In theory, the damage should only get better than what we have here. With all the angst and hype over the league, it's hard to find quality stuff as of now. Lots of clickbait, lots of hopping on the bandwagon. I'm hoping this video will be as clear as possible, and as another disclaimer, I'll be playing in a private league, more info on that in another video, so a lot of my gearing goals are much less than average. The only item I'm betting on is Dendrobait, but it's common enough, especially since we'll have like 100 plus people playing in this private league. The only other unique we use is Itziri's Step, which is a common drop from Itziri, so that shouldn't be a problem to get. So here we are in the path building. So the first thing we're going to go off of is going to be our ascendancy choices. So the first thing you're probably going to pick up is going to be Maxer Toxicist. When you kill a poison enemy during any flask effect, which is pretty much all the time as a Pathfinder, nearby enemies are poisoned. And then poisons you inflict during any flask effect have a 20% chance to deal 100% more damage. Now, I believe this poison prolif, this should in theory make up for our clear. So in the past, Explosive Concoction has had issues with clear, mainly just because it's a little clunky. But in theory, Master Toxicist should actually fix all of our clear. Most of the time though, if this isn't good enough, we can always shove a Plague Bear link into our skills, and that should be good enough after that. But I'm trying to not have to use Plague Bringer, but in theory, you could add Plague Bringer if you really wanted to for some extra damage. Then of course we grab Nature's Reprisal, as the 15% more chaos damage with attack skills does apply to our attacks, as Poisonous Concoction is an attack. The increased AoE does apply to our Poisonous Concoction AoEs, I believe, and the 40% physical converted to chaos is kind of worthless. Now we also take Nature's Boon. We gain 3 flash charges every 3 seconds, and flasks have a chance to not consume charges. This is pretty much what makes Pathfinder. Also 6% reduced elemental damage taken is very strong. And for the last node, we take Nature's Adrenaline for the movement speed and the attack speed, as we'll probably need a little bit of attack speed because you will be unarmed for Poisonous Concoction, so you got to get some attack speed somewhere. Right now we're at 2.44, but the more standard version, like the more not private league friendly build, is going to be like 3.4 seconds per like second, which is pretty nice. Now for the notables, we're going to go over stuff. So now we can actually go over like the notables instead of going over every single specific node. So the first one is we're going to be grabbing increased effect of Withered up here, as Wither is one of our biggest DPS boosts. As you can tell, I go up to 15 Wither stacks. It's a lot of damage. Just so you know, this total DPS incoming per poison, this is per flask. And in theory, with GMP, people have tested this as well. Explosive Concoction shotguns, so there's no reason why Poisonous Concoction shouldn't shotgun. So in theory, you should get like 4 to 5 on every hit-ish, something like that. So it's like 4 to 5 times this number. It's something like that. Like, the math isn't like absolute, right? Yeah, that should be fine. So increased effect of Withered is insanely strong for us. And of course, getting all the chaos damage. Then down here, we do take the 10% damage taken from overtime effects. There's not really much else. You can get the damage over time if you killed recently, but that doesn't really help you on bosses. You could get the increased duration of ailments on enemies. That can always be a lot of damage, but I opted for the reduced damage, less damage taken, so we don't die from like dots as often. Now we obviously get the increased life from this one. For this one, we get 3% life from killing a poisoned enemy. This is really strong, as this is most of our sustain while mapping. Uh, Utility flasks gain 1 charge every 3 seconds, so all of our utility flasks gain 4 charges per second. This is pretty much is what will allow us to run either probably alchemists. Now, I need to like mess around with this. This stuff's going to be 100% feel on the flasks specifically. The only thing that is what you want will be a saturated divine flask. I believe saturated is the best. Now, this could be wrong because we might not have enough recover. I think the recovery rate does apply to the life flask charges gained per second. So we'll have to play with this in game because we don't know how much of a chewing like how many flash charges you're gonna chew per second with poisonous concoction. We have no idea as of the moment, right? This is only 2 charges per attack, but if we're attacking like 3 times per second, then like no idea, right? And of course, this one, we get the 1% chaos damage over time multiplier per 4% chaos resistance. This does not affect overcapped. So if we're overcapped on chaos res, you don't get extra chaos damage over time multi. Only applies up to 75% or your max chaos res. So just so you know that, that's actually something that got a friend of mine. He didn't understand that, and I had to show him that. We are grabbing all this reservation stuff because we're running a lot of auras, as this patch has allowed a singular character to run a lot more auras than before, as I'll show you in a second. Then we're obviously getting the increased evasion from the body armor, really strong. Then here we're getting a bunch of chance to suppress spell damage. We're kind of betting on this to help us against stuff like Sirius and all that. So this is a really strong one. Precision has a 100% increased mana reservation efficiency. Since we're an unarmed attack, the ability of being able to stack accuracy is really hard. So having this little bit of accuracy cluster is really nice. As you can tell on a reservation, it's about 9%. If I click this, we go to like 5%. So generally, it's probably a good idea to just have this extra reservation. I gotta mess with the mana more. Obviously, the reservation isn't perfect right now. Then, of course, regenerate 2% life while moving. That's pretty strong. Pretty much the only thing I think you can grab there. Then for this one, we're grabbing the poison duration. Poison duration is really strong with this build. As you can tell, it's a lot of our damage. As the longer poisons last, the more damage you do. Now, this one's an interesting one. I'm unsure about this one. So we're taking 3 points. We don't get the benefits from the attack speed with the claws and all that, but we do get the chance to poison on hit with attacks, which doesn't matter. I think we're overcapped significantly. Then, of course, we get the 5% increased duration here. Right? We don't get the claw stuff. We get the increased duration. And then we get the 10% damage over time multiplier for poison. And that's it. Well, the reason why we're grabbing this is for enemies poisoned by you cannot deal critical strikes. The reason why this is so strong is I don't believe there's been a time where getting crit immune from like your passive tree has been this easy, right? So just literally being able to make it so if you hit something, they can't crit you. That's really strong. I don't know if it's worth it. We'll have to like test, right? But not being crit sounds nice. This is like one of the best overpowered like nodes in the game, as you can go up here, get all this elemental avoidance. You can get even more shock avoidance as well, and crystal skin for maximum reses, even more avoidance. You can also get corrupting blood as well. This is like a hardcore player's like best dream, like having corrupting blood right here. It's so nice, isn't it? Like this is such a insane node, like combination of nodes. Pretty much deals with all of our avoidance while also giving us corrupting blood immunity, while also giving us max res. Like I really like this node. Then we grab poisons inflicted on a non-poison enemy, deal 300% increased damage. I believe this applies to the poisons that prolif, so this should make our clear feel even more buttery smooth. And in theory, if this doesn't work, if the prolif doesn't work, we could swap this out for increased plague bearer effect instead, and just use plague bearer instead. It's really dependent on what happens and how I feel about the build. Flask Mastery, just extra flask effect, more suppression stuff. It's like, stereotypical suppression stuff. Then we have this. This is actually a lot of our intelligence. Makes it so we don't have to run much intelligence on our gear. As you can tell, we're lacking on strength a little bit, but my gear isn't fully filled out. It's kind of like as bare as possible, so I can get a good idea of what I need exactly. Then for this, just a bunch of life and a more avoid ailment stuff, which is really strong. And that's pretty much it for all the passive masteries. I really love the passive mastery system. It's really enhanced the passive tree gameplay, like being able to figure out exactly what you want. And then for skills here, so I want to show you guys, we are utilizing this weapon. So we have to use Spectral Throw for now because it has the least amount of flat damage on it and the least amount of like effective like damage on it. Like it's as blank as possible. So we can properly calculate Poisonous Concoction's damage. Just so you know, it's going to be a little bit different than this because we're not going to be using Spectral Throw. We're going to use Poisonous Concoction. Plus levels is a thing. I don't have Empower in my links, but Empower should be better than Vicious Projectiles, but we'd have to see once we get the gem info. And I can't really properly test it right now anyways, because I don't have Empower. We don't know exactly how things scale with Empower. And of course, plus the levels would be insane. Obviously, like on our amulet, we have a plus to chaos skill gems, which would be insane with Poisonous Concoction as well. We have no idea how it scales. Like our estimates are like close to 11% of the life flask recovery rate, but we don't know exactly. So this is the weapon. It just has our poison, what our Poisonous Concoction would do. It's like about it. Then for the shield, nothing crazy. Like the helmet. So we can get either an influence mod or we can get it from a delve mod. Either way, it's pretty easy to get. Then you just spam some essences on it. Nothing too crazy. So the Dendrobate, I'm going to be playing in a private league. I'm going to be asking people to save me a Dendrobate or two, or all the Dendrobates, depends if anyone else is playing Poisonous Concoction. And we're going to be trying to Scourge mod this. So what we're going to do is we're going to 5-link it, and then we're going to Scourge mod it. So we at least have a 6-link, right? I'm not completely sure what we want on Scourge, like at all, to be honest, because we don't know the Scourge mod pool yet. But we're going to Scourge as many Dendrobates this league as possible with this build. But the gloves, nothing too crazy, just life res stuff like that. So Aziri's Step. So I changed it to what I believe Aziri's Step is going to be changing into, kind of like 25% chance to suppress spell damage. It's like an average. I don't know how much exactly it's going to be. I think that's the higher end of the roll. Like, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but I believe this is around where you want to be. And if we are in full life, thanks to a note on the tree, I believe we're going to have 98% chances get spell suppression. So spell suppression is kind of like Glancing Blow from last epoch. It's either you have it at 100% or you don't have it at all. So you probably want to get to cap spell suppression as quick as possible. And Aziri's Steps is one of the easiest ways of getting there. It also gives us life, movement speed, evasion, like everything you'd ever want. An amulet. All you really want on the amulet is the chaos.multi and the +1 to chaos skill gems. I don't know how exactly I'm going to get this yet, but I believe it's either through fossil crafting or essence crafting. I will have to look up on exactly how to get this the easiest way and what else I could run on it as well. Like I said, in a private league, my resources are going to be limited. I'm very excited as it'll be fun. Then, of course, rings aren't too crazy. Like I said, this is a very low amount of health. I like butchered the health rolls on all of these just to see how much health I'd have in theory. Then the belt, same thing. So for the flasks, I believe this is your best flask for your life flask. So that number at the top, the 4,320, that is actually the amount I believe that gets like 9% of that is added as flat. Now, we're not entirely sure how this works, but that's what we believe is the case. There could be a better flask. You can also Hillock quality it for 29%. And then you could also harvest craft it for extra quality. Now, the way that the harvest craft quality works is you get like 100% quality or something like that. And then each time you use the flask, it loses a quality percent up to 0, and then you have to craft on it. But the thing is, as long as we're not touching the flask, because we're not going to be touching the flask, we're going to be using it through concoction. So in theory, we should only have to harvest craft our flask every so often, because we'll only click it when in dire need of HP, right? Otherwise, we won't even touch it. We should have enough sustain otherwise, right? So this should be fine. Like I said, I'm open to suggestions on what you guys think is better, like all of this. Then, of course, the Stibnite Flask, like Granite Flask for some armor, a very small amount. So in my calcs, I have set up so 99999, so I get a better picture of what my actual physical resistance is going to be against single hit targets. You can see here, scroll down. Effective HP pools like 7k ish. It could a max hit taken like 9k. This isn't too good, but with how cheap of gear I have, like it should be fine. Now, this could be replaced with a Taste of Hate later on if we drop a Taste of Hate, or if someone drops a Taste of Hate and I trade for it, or if I ever go to Trade League and get a Taste of Hate, this is probably where you'd want to put Taste of Hate instead. And then, of course, Quicksilver Flask and movement speed. Of course, movement speed is king. 133%, a lot of movement speed. And that's pretty much it for the gearing. We went over the skills. Oh, we didn't go over the skills. So Vicious Projectiles could be an Empower. It could not be an I'll have to test it when I get in game, when we're actually playing. I am in a private league, so I'm not entirely sure if I'll have an Empower for a while. So I'll probably end up using Vicious Projectiles. It's also the one we dump if we only have a 5-link Dendrobait, because Dendrobait has chance to poison on hit as one of its links, so it's pretty much quintessentially a pseudo 6-link. So we can pretty much 5-link them and then corrupt them, and later on in Trade League we get a 6-link one later on if I do move over to Trade League. So either way, probably not, depending on what happens there. So I don't know the best way of applying Wither right now. I don't know what the meta is. But back in my day, when I used to play Path of Exile more often, we used to use Spell Totem with faster casting and multiple totems. If this is wrong, please tell me. Then, of course, the gloves. So as you can tell, we have a lot of auras. I don't have Enlighten on. Enlighten is here. So we have Summon Skitterbots. So Summon Skitterbots, it actually gets affected by Unbound Ailments. You get increased effect of non-damaging ailments thanks to it. So if I click on it, you can see we get a lot of damage and chill effect from it. But we are only going to put on Unbound Ailments once we get an Enlighten, so that our mana isn't so crangled, right? So we're keeping both of these off. This is what you'd use once you get an Enlighten gem. And then, of course, Flame Dash, faster casting. There should be a way where we move Precision to a different place and then move, kind of mess around with it and put the Skitterbots in there. I don't know how exactly you'd go around doing that, but yeah. Of course, Flame Dash, faster casting, so you can maneuver a lot easier. Then for the shield utility, we just have Steel Skin on our left click, and then, of course, an Enduring Cry for endurance charges on bosses. I'm not entirely sure if this is right, but we're going to test it. I've used Enduring Cry in the past before, and it's done flying colors for me. And that's pretty much it for the build overall. I am really hyped for this league. Playing in a private league is going to be fun. And like I said, if it doesn't work out, we'll just go to Trade League and just throw a bunch of money at it. With that being said, thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you're at, and bye.